Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and today we're going to change out some snares on one of these drums, and that's the one to my right, your left. This is a Dialtune snare drum. I've been making quite a few videos on this lately. And I'm going to put some orchestra snares on here. It's kind of an experiment. I'm going to try a couple different sets. And I've gotten a lot of questions about this over the years. Can I turn a regular drum set drum to an orchestra snare? The answer is yes, you can. It may not have all the, fancy things on it, the multiple snares, the perfect strainer for that situation. But you can go a long way to making your regular drum set snare drum into an acceptable drum for playing, classical etudes, even with a wind ensemble, concert band, and especially an orchestra. So let's just talk about these drums real quick. This is a Pearl Philharmonic nickel over brass drum. It's a drum I use a lot for orchestra playing. It's a common size, which is 4 by 14. This is a nickel over brass 6.5 by 14. It's the only size that Dialtune makes. But I'm interested in seeing what it sounds like with orchestra snares. So we'll show you a few things about this snare that I'm going to be comparing it to. First thing are the actual snares themselves. Let's loosen this basket a little bit. Okay. So you see those snares there, how they're different from regular curly snares. First of all, there's 3 separate sets of them, and these are interchangeable. So you can buy many different types of snares to put on here. Okay, and it's the old style. This drum's pretty old. It's probably about 15 years old. So it doesn't have the bead in the middle. And the strainer, by the way, I'm sure you all know this by now. I've made so many videos on it. It's that Pearl strainer. They've updated this now, but the old one works fine. So, all right, we'll put this back. And the other thing we should think about today, and I'll have to remember this, is when you're comparing 2 snares, you always need to muffle one. What'll happen, especially when it's off, what'll happen is the sympathetic vibrations will sound funny. Now this is tuned to roughly an A. Anywhere from a G to a B flat is where I tune my orchestra snares. Normally I'll tune this one to an A. So. So you see how sensitive it is and dry. It's got a point to the sound. And a lot of times, since you're all the way in the back of the orchestra and you have to drive that train, all those people, they need to hear clarity. What you don't want in an orchestra is a sound like this. Now that's not bad by any means. It's actually a great sounding drum, but it's a little wet, so there's not as much clarity. Also, there's a lot of snare sound, which we don't necessarily want, especially because if the French horns are right in front of you, or the grand coffs of the bass drum to your left, the timpani is right near you. Every time they hit a sympathetic note, like a lower note, or even a higher note, it's going to make those snares buzz. It'll sound like you're playing a roll. So you're constantly having to turn your snares on and off anyway. But even when they're on, you don't want that to happen. So that's why we use those special snares that aren't curly snares. Now, real quick, I'm going to do some weightlifting and lift this sucker up. It's really heavy. Those are curly snares. These are pure sound, just regular old garden variety snares. All right? You don't want to use those for orchestra or concert band because of what I just said. So the clarity and the reaction, the sympathetic vibrations from the other instruments. That being said, this is a pretty sensitive drum. But it doesn't have the pointedness of this drum. you'll notice I do have muffling on there. When I take the muffling off, it's going to ring quite a bit. Don't want that as well. It sounds like a tin can, right? So a lot of these drums, they will ring like that. So you want a little drier. You can use this little tiny piece of leather, a cloth that you use to clean your glasses. If you have glasses, that works great too. Many players use that. And you can just clip it onto the edge somehow, and that works fine. There's also a lot of things you can buy that are expensive. No need for that, my opinion. All right, so now you know the difference between these and what we're trying to do by changing the snare. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is take this muffler off. The head's already changed, and you've seen me do that with this Dialtune. You just loosen the knobs, turn the jar here to your left, counterclockwise, lift it off. Takes literally 30 seconds. Very convenient. What we're going to do is we're going to leave the snares on now because this DW mag strainer will move anyway. And we're going to turn it over. All right? And you might hear some residual snare with my talking. Sorry about that. Okay, so this uses these clips. And let me turn on this camera so I have it available because we'll have to do some close-ups. And I'll show you these snares if you haven't seen them before. Probably you have. These pure sound snares are excellent snares. All right, so this is what they look like. And this is what comes with these drums if you buy them. Now we see these little clips, these retainer clips on here. I am not a fan of these because they will come loose. But the thing about them is you can just literally pull them out and change the snares. All right, so we'll have this overhead view here. So you pull the clip, you got to put one hand on there, and it just should slide right out like that, okay? It's a smart idea, but it sometimes can malfunction. And then we'll do the other one now that there's no tension on it very easily. And then what happens is the snares just lift right out. Super easy. All right, no unscrewing or screwing. But I have a feeling this may not work. So I have 3 sets of snares that we're going to look at today. One is this set of just normal old Black Swamp cable that's coated, and it's the blue and yellow, kind of similar to the old hanger snares. And these have a clamp on the outside. All right, so you've got to make sure that that'll work on a drum like this. And pretty much, just so you know, it won't. Because, well, it will, but you have to take this clamp off and then drive it through this, this hole here and then try to attach it. So I just wanted to show you these, but this is going to be a no-go. So when you buy them, especially if you're doing a Dialtune snare, or most other snares, I do not prefer these because of that clamp. It can be a real nuisance. It does work on some snares. On my Clevelander snare, I do use these because it works fine. But I would avoid these with these clamps here. What you want are these 2 things I'll show you. This is model W14CS. These are Black Swamp, and these are called wraparound cable snares. These are perfect for most every drum, okay? So that's what you want. So it's just the regular holes that you can use. Now there's no hole for a strap, so we'll do this one second because we're going to have to take off these straps. But these are great. And I'll put the information on the screen here if you want to get these. These fit most every drum, and they call wraparound because they literally go right up to the edge of the strainer. And we'll see if they work with this drum. They may not. It's very tricky because there's these slots here that you see in the rim. So I found some smaller wires, and I cleaned up a little bit of the mess, and I'm going to show you how I do this. So I believe these are 13s. I'm going to go a little shorter at first. This particular drum does not have snare beds, so I'm hoping that'll relieve some of the rattle using a shorter snare. It's a huge difference. Maybe I'll put a sample of when I played earlier on here so you can hear it. But yeah, feel it. So let's tighten it a little more, and we'll put this on all the way. See, that's a little too much, so we can really adjust it with this. Middle, all the way tight. Thing's great. Just a great idea with the butt plate there. That would be great for rudimental drumming. A little too choked for orchestral drumming. So I really like it all the way down, loosest there. And of course you can make adjustments with the regular strainer throw-off as well, but these are repeatable. Where the knob, you don't know where you are. This, you know, you can tighten it, loosen it, whatever. Now the beauty of a Dialtune drum, and again, I don't have affiliation with the company, is that you can change the lower snare head with a knob and hit it while you're doing it. You can't do that with a drum key or anything else, really. So if I hit the top, and this is why I'm so high on this to become an orchestra drum, the ability to do this. So if I play on the edge and try to get more sensitivity, see what that sounds like. So I'm loosening the bottom head, it makes it a lot wetter. Now let's try tightening it. There's the ticket. And let's just try this a little tighter. Now I'm getting a little bit of residual snare sound from the rim, so let's try a few things. That fixed it. So you see what I did there? I backed off the lever. There it is in the middle. And here it is towards the right. So a lot of times when your snares are too tight, that's what happens. It gets a bad kind of buzzy sound there. Infinitely adjustable. So this is exciting, and I'm going to use this when I get in the hall. We'll see how it goes, and I'll update you. So before we go today, we'll try one more set of snares, and you don't need to see me change these out because you're probably bored already. But what I'm going to do is turn this thing over and change out for those Black Swamp and see if they actually work, because I want to see what those sound like. Okay, so that was a little bit dicey. I got them on, but it wasn't easy. But there's these slots here in the Dialtune rim. If they were going to do this, they'd have to redesign their rim, at least for a classical drum, because these snares don't necessarily fit, although I did finagle a way to get them to fit on one end. So you'll see here that slot and how I had to get it to go under. Hopefully you can see that. These are really good snares. It's a mix of the blue cable, coated cable, and the steel cable. And then on this end, see what I did? You can see where the strainer. So it's not the same on both sides. And I haven't actually turned it over, so this will be the maiden voyage. We'll see what happens. Not bad, actually. I'll put the timestamps in the description so you can go back and forth between the different snares, but it's a different sound for sure. And it's definitely more sensitive on the edge. Let's lower this a little. They definitely need to be tight. A little more difficult to play. Let's see if they go off all the way. They do. I think I like the other ones better. Now I'm recording this video with some cheap zoom cameras and I'm using that audio. So I don't know if this will all come across great, but usually the audio on those things is pretty good. But I think you'll hear it just fine, the differences. And you know, when you put on the strainer, it doesn't seem tight at all. It's pretty interesting. And let's compare them. I'll tell you one thing, this drum, the Dialtune, feels better than the Pearl, a lot better, especially on the edge. And again, it has a little bit of annoying ring at this pitch. It's pretty high. So we'll muffle it just a little more. Yeah, this has been a pretty successful experiment. I do this kind of stuff all the time. I'm kind of weird like that. It's like my hobby. I'll grab a snare drum and try 20 different snares on there, you know, types of snares, 20 different types of heads, and then I write it down. I keep a log, what sounds the best. So of all my snares, I have like over 100 snare drums easily. I have, you know, logs of what sounds really good on what, and I swap everything out. You know, and a lot of times, believe it or not, the original parts sound the best. It all comes back to that. But I learn a lot by doing this. I definitely suggest you do the same thing. Never be scared. You're not going to break anything. Don't be scared to swap out snares. Definitely heads are a huge part of a drum sound, more than the shell, I think. So the heads, you know, if you're not happy with the way your drum sounds, try some different heads. I had a student the other day bring in a drum with an emperor head. And right away, I just saw the emperor head. I said, oh, I know what the problem is right now. So I put a diplomat on there. I think maybe an ambassador even. And then it opened it right up. And he was like, oh, my God, I've been dealing with this for years and years. And, you know, once you put a thinner head on there, it opens the drum up. Especially the bottom head, the snare head, where the snares hit. That should be as thin as possible, a diplomat. And then the top, an ambassador or even a diplomat. If you hit really hard, playing hard rock gigs, emperor is fine. Because then, you know, you'll go through a diplomat in a couple tunes, and by the end of the night, an ambassador will be gone. An emperor will last you probably 3 or 4 days before it starts showing some serious signs of distress.